Hogstye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hogstye. It is your host, Alex East. I got Steve with me and Dave. Steve, welcome back to the show.
What are you trying to sound like some bad 80s radio dude?
No, I
to the
think I was
show.
channeling a little bit of, what was that old political show in the 80s in D.C.?
You're talking to the wrong person, man.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking. It was on. I think it was on ABC. I think it was.
McLaughlin
Wasn't it
Group,
national?
maybe?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm doing a little McLaughlin. More likely doing a little Dana Carvey doing McLaughlin there. I don't know.
That is, yeah. See that it's sort of like, yes, it's an imitation of imitation,
Right.
of a sarcastic imitation of McLaughlin.
Right.
I'm just glad Dave came back for.
Absolutely.
Week.
Had a good time last week.
Yeah. And your
I'm
audio
just hoping you guys don't fire me after week one. That's all.
Not yet.
No. We usually have people quit before we fire them. You know, it's about severance.
I did cut his salary in half.
Yeah. Well, we got a good show. Oh boy. We got to do our in-season predictions. That's of course going to take up way more of the show than it always, we always think. So I'm going to save a half hour for that because that's usually what it is. Why don't we start out talking about the Washington Commanders' final preseason game versus the Baltimore Ravens? Not a whole lot to discuss because Ron Rivera ended up benching the starters after spending all week saying, no, I'll play my starters a little.
I don't understand.
He chickened out.
What on God's green earth made Ron Rivera think the starters were ready for the season?
Fear of an injury.
You can't play in fear, though. You really can't. And I just don't. I mean, the offense just didn't look ready. They just didn't. I'm sorry. They looked terrible. So I just don't. Personally, I would have had them play 4 quarters.
I mean, I don't know if I'd have gone 4 quarters, but I would have had them at least do a 2 or 3 series.
They need the work. They need the help.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a typical Washington. Yeah, it looked like a typical Washington preseason to me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the guys who did play, because I think story number 1, of course, coming out of this is Sam Howell. He is Colt of Colt. He is. So I came up with the nickname. We had Colt of Colt for Colt McCoy and Colt Brennan fans years ago. If you were into the online social media Redskins world back in the day, that's what Colt fans were called.
Rest in peace, Colt Brennan. By the way, didn't he die?
Yeah. He did pass away, unfortunately.
Like a drug overdose or something, wasn't it?
Well, he had a drug problem. I thought it was a car accident that he died.
Hold on, I don't want to get that. Let me have to.
Yeah,
I don't want to
he did have a prescription painkiller problem, and I remember he was trying to make a comeback in the Arena Football League, and he was told basically, you take one more hit to the head, and you'll be, sipping everything through a straw. He had some severe brain damage from playing.
So according to Wikipedia, which we all know is always right.
Right.
May 10th, 2021, found unconscious in a hotel room after ingesting fentanyl. So it was drugs.
Okay, so it was
fentanyl. Yeah.
All right. Fucking fentanyl. Sorry, we shouldn't curse on the show, but
But you did anyway, in spite of 6 years of the show.
Yeah. All right. So it was the car accident that got him addicted to painkillers.
I think that might be right.
I was switching those in my head. All right. Well, anyway, Slinging Sam Howell. That's what we're.
See, you can't do that, man. No, I refuse. That will not be allowed on my show.
How about Fans of Sam?
That's fine. Slinging Sammy is Sammy Baugh, and that's it. You can't. Some random 5th round draft pick is not going to get Slinging Sammy on my show. I'm sorry.
All right. Fine.
I don't blame you.
My God. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
All right.
I mean, there could be a day, but it's not today.
Yeah.
No, it
the
will
dude
never
threw
be
for
a day,
280
no.
yards last night. He ran for another 60 some odd yards. Sam Howell was by far the best player on the field when he was on the field. And granted, these are all third stringers. Most of these guys will be cut. But he clearly outplayed everybody who was out there on his team, on the Ravens, all of them.
How many points did his offense score again? Trying to help me remember.
16?
No, it was 15.
15, yeah.
So how is that good?
Well, that's not good. But how many passes did his receivers drop?
What's the most important thing?
Well, catching a ball.
Points scored. Look, Sam Howell, I like Sam Howell, okay? I said it in the beginning. I said during the draft process, I like Sam Howell. He's inconsistent. He needs to learn. He clearly has a gun. He's got a great arm. There's no doubt about it. He did look pretty good yesterday, albeit against, like you said, the Ravens' second and third stringers.
Right.
And yes, the receivers dropped balls. De'Ami Brown dropped one that should have been caught for a touchdown.
He dropped two that should have been caught.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is more of the same from Washington's offense. And while I like Sam Howell, I don't think fans should get overly excited about it because I think it's a bit of, backup quarterback, fanaticism going on here.
Well, speaking of the fans, the one thing, of course, you won't be surprised by is their call out for him being the QB2 going into the season, of course. And of course, it's going to migrate into Wentz having one bad game and let's bring in Sam and
right.
That whole story. But my biggest takeaway is that, yeah, he has some development to do, and I would love to see this franchise for once actually develop this kid, clean him up, get him ready. I mean, at minimum, I think he should, unless Wentz completely stinks up the joint this year or even next year, he should be behind Wentz for at least 2 years to develop, and get him in position to where in that year 3, maybe he's ready to challenge for that spot, or we've already moved on from Wentz or whatever it is. I definitely don't want to see us rushing through his progress on this one.
I mean, I'm in 100% agreement with you that he should be developed. I don't want him to take that number 2 job, not just because I admittedly am a Heineke fan, but I feel like there is a different mentality in preparing to be the backup guy and go into every game, and you might have to go in at a moment's notice, versus planning to be a starter and learning how to prep to be a starter. And I want Sam Howell to learn how to be a starter while he's a backup. I want him shadowing Wentz and what Wentz does to prepare for a game. Heineke, the greatest thing about Heineke as a backup is he can basically just go in there and run around. And you don't really need to, alter your game plan much. He's going to do what he's going to do when he goes in if, Wentz gets hurt or something along those lines.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I get the fact that you guys who are fans are rooting for him. I'm rooting for him to succeed in general.
Right.
I was, to be perfectly honest, kind of rooting for the Ravens in this game. But regardless, I'm not trying to throw cold water on anybody's excitement over Sam Howell. But I would just point out he was 9 for 16 for 145 yards against the Panthers. Good, not great. It's okay. Chiefs, 12 for 19. I'm sorry, that's Patrick Mahomes. 10 for 18, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 53 last week. Yes, he looked pretty good on the field, and I do think that, as Dave pointed out, his receivers hurt him. The 2 drop balls and other things. The running game wasn't all that great, outside of himself. All of that, but he's been inconsistent in the preseason. The man is not ready to be a starter. Dave's 100% right.
No.
Washington as a franchise needs to keep the guy on the bench. He's only a 5th-round draft pick. He doesn't have to ever start to get draft value out of him. So if he has starter potential, he's going to have to get more consistent. He's going to have to learn. The only way that comes is to be a backup. Like Dave said, like a couple years at least. But I don't think Washington necessarily has to ever start him, because 5th rounders, it's a shot in the dark at that round, and not many quarterbacks come from that level of the draft. Starters.
Right. Well, I think we're all in agreement there. I mean, this team got lucky 10 years ago when they got Kirk Cousins in the 4th round and it took him 3 seasons to develop. I can't remember if it was season. I know he played a little in season 1, a little in season 2
I
of
think
his
Griffin got benched in the middle of 2013, right?
middle or end, yeah. So
Yeah,
like
and so
last 3 or
that
4 games, that's what it
yeah,
was.
so that was it. And Cousins was terrible in the beginning.
Yeah, he was
Remember?
horrible. Right.
Yeah. He had one good game against Cleveland his rookie year, I believe that was. Right?
Yeah, that was the game after Baltimore, I believe, where
Yeah.
Griffin got hurt.
Yeah, but yeah, give these guys time to grow. I totally could see Sam Howell. He's a different type of quarterback, but he could easily have that trajectory.
Well, sure. I mean, am I right in thinking that the fans are all gaga over him today? Is that right? I haven't looked at all.
I think there is a segment of the fan base that is, like I said, the fans of Sam's. That.
Okay, well, fair enough. But I mean, be fans of whoever and be excited about your team, and I'm not discouraging that. But just a little realism, I think, is necessary with Sam Howell. The guy is not starting out as Sammy Baugh.
No, he's not ready.
He had a good game yesterday. That having been said, he only scored 15 points. At the end of the day, 15 points will not cut it.
No.
And against the Ravens backups.
Right. I don't think anyone should be under that illusion that he's ready to start right now.
Right.
I think he's got enough tools where you could say maybe he could be the guy in a few years. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's fair. And again, it was consistency in college.
Right.
Consistency. It was inconsistency that kind of bounced down to round 5 out of round 1.
Yeah. But that said, he was at one point projected to be a round 1 guy.
That's my point. And consistency is what did him in.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of bad games. He's had bad games this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call last week's game by Washington versus the Chiefs as a good game by Sam Howell.
No.
He didn't look good.
No one did. Yeah.
No. So it was good. Okay. His performance in offseason has basically been he was okay. He was pretty bad. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his preseason so far has been a mashup of his last 2 college years. Basically, you saw his ups and you saw his downs, and they were just all over the place. And especially his last year when he lost like Michael Carter and his other running back, I can't think of the top of my head, and also De'Ami Brown and so forth, and he lost all them weapons to the NFL the following year. There was zero chemistry. He was more erratic that year than was prior year, of course. But I mean, he needs time. There's a lot of lapses he goes through in terms of mechanics and where he needs to go through in his progressions and so forth. You can see that every now and then. So it's just that's why like we all said, he needs that time. He's got to develop. That's it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, the secondary just got their rear ends handed to them. It felt like it seems I don't know. I'm assuming it's just a depth issue in part, but they got exposed every time on the same side. It seemed like the same side of the field. The Ravens were just going deep. They were beating the drum on the right side.
The first deep touchdown, Danny Johnson was the corner. It looked to me like, I guess, cover 3 because the safety was not in the zone. It looked to me like what happened. I think Tyler Huntley was in it. It might have been Anthony Brown, but I think it was Huntley. I don't know if that was an RPO, but I suspect it was. There was a huge running lane for the quarterback. Yeah. And what Johnson did is got suckered by that running lane. And then once he took one step forward, it was over, and the receiver was off to the races, especially in cover 3, and the safety was nowhere to be found.
Right.
And so
they also bid on a bit of a move there too.
Well, yeah, he did. But what he was really doing to me was reacting to the quarterback's run threat there. And I'm not saying it was right. It was the wrong thing to do, but I think that's what happened on the play. And then the second one of those long plays that was on the left side of the field all the way was Dejon Neal. Dewan Neal. Is that his name? Either way, we're not going to have to remember him after, tomorrow.
I will when he's in the XFL, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, man, you'll be the only one. But he just got flat out beat horribly on a double move in the worst possible way. So I don't know. I think both of those guys are going to get cut personally.
Danny Johnson might still make it because he is still like one of the key special teams guys.
That was a really bad play, though.
Yeah, he just got.
But the fact of the matter is, though, because that the defensive line looked bad on that play, that if he had stuck with the wide receiver, I think that quarterback would have been off for a 10-yard run.
Yeah, and well, I mean that's the danger of these new RPOs that people are using in the NFL. It's like, as a defender, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's that kind of
but
way,
you can't. I mean, the cardinal rule of being playing corner or safety, having done it at a low level, never ever let the guy get behind you.
Yeah, of course.
If that's your choice, you got to go with the receiver.
Yeah, and it's going to look less bad for you if you do that.
Yes.
And even in an RPO situation, Danny Johnson shouldn't be taking that step up anyways. He has to be protecting
he did the wrong thing.
Fear. Right.
I'm just saying I think that's what he got sucked into.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Did anything else really stand out to you guys about this game? I know we briefly touched on Brown's continued issues, fighting for the ball, catching, but.
Well, as far as De'Ami Brown goes, to me, I mean, he was always going to take a couple years. Just based on what he did in college, it didn't look like he was really pro. It looked like he was a guy with a lot of talent, a lot of speed, who wasn't pro ready. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of proving true. He's a 3rd-round draft pick, so he's going to get another year. He's not, I don't think, unless Washington really goes like off deep end drastic, which they could, I guess, but I don't think they're going to cut him, because they want to get some value out of their investment. So there's that.
Yeah.
I think the most frustrating part with Brown, I think, is the fact that you had Dax Milne, who seems to be outplaying him at every level, and he was I believe he was a 5th or 6th round pick, 7th round pick.
He was our very last pick that year.
So that becomes very frustrating when you see your 7th round pick outperforming your 3rd round pick. I believe they were in the same draft too, weren't they?
Yep.
Didn't they come at the same time? Yeah.
Well, you just got to recognize, though, in my view, that De'Ami Brown wasn't ready. He wasn't going to be ready.
Right.
It's just that's what it is.
Lower floor, higher ceiling than Milne. That's the big thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is running game. Somebody tell me, because I wasn't paying attention. Was Jonathan Williams hurt, or was he just benched for the game?
I think I don't think he's suited for the game, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so that surprised me. It didn't sort of. Jonathan Milne or Williams has definitely been the 3rd best running back on the team, I think, this preseason. It surprised me that he wasn't dressed. And again, I'm assuming he wasn't hurt. Somebody tell me if he was. Over Jarrett Patterson, because typically the players who don't play in the last game have a roster spot secured. What does that mean? Brian Robinson was going to make the team always, and he's outperformed everybody. Antonio Gibson was always going to make the team. Mm-hmm. Now it appears as though Jonathan Williams has made the team. So that's 3. And then Jarrett Patterson had his tryout. He didn't do badly. He was 11 for 47, 4.3 yards per attempt, which is pretty decent, good but not great, against who? Ravens backups. So, and Reggie Bonifant didn't look all that good. He was the other guy, got a bunch of carries. So it makes me wonder if they're going to go with 3 running backs, cut Patterson, maybe put him on the practice squad. They'll have to have 1 or 2 running backs on the practice squad. Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder if regular season it's going to be that. It's going to be Robinson, running back number 1. Gibson's the running back number 1A, for lack of a better term. Jonathan Williams is the principal backup, with maybe only those on the active roster.
Well, don't forget McKissick.
Oh, McKissick. Sorry. Yeah, him too. Yeah. So that's 4. So I don't know how Patterson makes the squad, is what I'm trying to say.
Unless you want to look at another perspective that maybe Williams solidified a role in their eyes, but they gave Patterson a chance to, show us what you had before we make a final decision. And that final spot came down to how he did perform in that game between him and Williams.
But I don't think the choice is between Patterson and Williams. I think Williams is on. I think if Williams is on the bubble, he would have played. I don't think any NFL team is going to do someone the sort of like getting in criminal trouble or something, and we'll talk about that later. I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
any
our next
NFL
topic.
Yeah, I don't think any NFL team is going to not play someone in the final preseason and then cut them. Not even dress them and then
Yeah.
cut them.
Yeah,
I
unless
just
they're
don't think
hurt
that's
or
the right.
something
True.
along the, or like you said, they did something criminal.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
absent
make
some
sense.
unusual thing. So
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Williams is in.
Yeah,
And
that's what my guess is too.
So really, to me, the decision would come down for the coaching staff. Do they want to carry 5 running backs or not? And I don't know if they will.
Unless one is like a true fullback, like that, I don't see any reason to carry a 5th running back. Like you don't carry 5 tailback types. You carry, if you're going to carry that many, someone's got to have a very different skill set here.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if Jared Patterson is destined for the practice squad.
I think he might be. Which, you know what, you're gonna have to call him up eventually because somebody gets hurt. Like it's an attrition thing at running back, so that won't shock me if he's the 5th guy on the practice squad.
In Washington, it's an attrition thing at every position.
Well, I think for a lot of teams it is, honestly.
Yeah, but I did that injury analysis a couple years ago, and
Washington was famously bad.
Yeah, and they weren't the worst, but they were up there.
Yeah.
And plus, with them they're guaranteed to carry 3 quarterbacks because there's no way cutting Sam Howell ever going to make the practice squad. So
they're not going to cut Heineke either.
No, absolutely not.
There's 3 quarterbacks.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know you can protect the practice squad guy, but there's still, when you cut them and move them, they could be signed elsewhere. Is that
yes?
So, yeah. Okay.
In simple form, yes. They wouldn't take the chance on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. All right, I think that kind of wraps us up on that part of the.
Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Wait. What? So I just like to point out that once again, I think I saw this morning as I was doing prep for the show that Ron Rivera said something like, "I'm happy with the linebackers as they are," or something.
Yeah. He said they'll watch the waiver wire, but we like our guys.
Here's what's listed on my linebacker chart that we publish a form of. I usually break it out into middle linebackers and outside linebackers. I just like breaking it out to that little detail. Here's my list of middle linebackers. David Mayo. The end. End of list. And then I've got Jamin Davis, Milo Eifler, Farad Gardner, Dejon Harris, Cole Holcomb, Khalil Hudson. Maybe you could throw Cole Holcomb by default in as a middle linebacker. Their linebacker group has got to be the worst in the NFL.
It probably is.
I don't know how Ron Rivera thinks that's okay.
I don't either.
It's mind-boggling. And nothing that I saw yesterday, and granted, I lost interest in this game halfway through the game, but I didn't see anything to make me change my mind about that.
Well, and they didn't play half those guys, which is
I
crazy.
know. Yeah, they didn't.
And especially playing with guys like Luke Kuechly. And was it her other linebacker Thomas? It was right.
Yeah,
the one that
Thomas
we had for
Davis,
about a year.
who was
Thomas Davis.
Well,
yes, but
Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera were starting linebackers, for God's sakes. They know the position.
And how you can say you could be happy with the guys that you have is just.
And I got newsflash for people. Jamin Davis has a lot of athletic ability. There's no guarantee that dude isn't going to be a bust.
No.
I know fans don't want to hear that, but he screamed bust last year. Not to say he can't turn it around. I'm not saying that, but the man screamed bust.
Well, for the position he was drafted for, you're not wrong.
He is a bust for that.
Yeah. So, not to throw it off too much, but so I did finally buy the new version of Madden, and I haven't bought Madden in 10 years, but I got an Xbox, and I was like, all right, I got to have one football video game. One of the things I've done so far, and it was like a very easy decision. I'm not paying Deron Payne a lot of money in franchise mode. I'm trading him for a freaking linebacker. That was one of the very first things I did.
Am I wrong in thinking that 2 years ago, back when I was still a fan, as Alex remembers at least, I don't know if Dave remembers, I was rooting for the team to draft Isaiah Simmons over Chase Young.
Yes, I do remember you talking about that.
No, you were a big Isaiah Simmons guy.
I still am. He's a guy who had to be used appropriately, and it took the Cardinals a little bit to figure that out. But he played much better last year. I still think Washington would have been better off with Isaiah Simmons in there at linebacker than with Chase Young. Fans will scream at me, and that's fine. Could bring it on. But Chase Young has been good, but not great. And now he's hurt. And Washington already has a first-round draft pick as a pass rusher. They could have found someone other decent veteran to fill in that position, and they would have had a much stronger linebacker core.
Well, I mean, there's a whole, issue with how they've been team building, and it actually predates Rivera. I don't put it all on Rivera. They overcompensated with this, going for defensive linemen all the time in the first round issue. So
and then the final thing about this game I wanted to mention. Now, I was about to say, gosh, return game really stunk. And for the most part, it did. But then I was looking at the stats. It appears as though I just didn't see this play, I guess. But apparently Alex Erickson had one punt return that was 13 yards, which is pretty decent.
Right.
But beyond that, their return game is done like Gorick all off season. So that's one thing that I don't think that one aspect of the game that has improved at all. It's kind of the same in Washington has had pretty famously bad return games for the past few years for the most part. So I think that's something to watch. And, maybe Erickson had one good punt return, but I wasn't impressed with that aspect of the game this offseason either. Preseason. Don't everybody speak up at once.
Sorry, my wife is texting me photos of spiders that she's finding in our house. And asking what they are. It's very weird.
On the non sequitur of the day.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I saw with the whole special teams side of me was Joey Slye missing that field goal. But
yeah,
I mean, I said his first field goal he missed in a Washington uniform. So.
Wonder if Dustin Hopkins has missed a kick this offseason.
No. Joey Slye has had some real consistency issues since he got here. It's not great. Tress Way was informed though. He had that nice little one that got downed at the 5. So.
Tress Way is
still the best
MVP
player on the team.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's the best, most consistent player on the team. And it's kind of a running joke on this show, but the fact of the matter is he actually is. For his position group, he is.
Yep. And I will not lie. I have already asked my wife, hey, you want to buy me a Tress Way jersey for my birthday? She said no. Jerseys are too expensive. All right, why don't we move on? Let's cover. There were some big injuries that have happened in the NFL preseason that we should mention. The Panthers have lost 2 quarterbacks to injury. Neither their starter, obviously. Matt Corral was kind of like Sam Howell here. He was going to be a developmental quarterback for a couple years. He was a guy that I liked coming out for that project, to be a project QB. I know, Steve, you were more of a Howell guy. I was more of a Corral guy.
I liked Matt Corral. No, I thought he was good. He was a good player as well. I would have been happy if my unnamed team would have drafted him.
Sure.
But didn't he have like injury issues in college too as well?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And then they lost Darnold as well.
Yeah, but it's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods, did the tree and you did the noise really happen? That old analogy. If Sam Howell or Sam Darnold gets hurt,
right?
Is that really an injury that matters?
Nah, I mean,
God bless the Mr. and Mrs. Darnold and all that, but are you really losing anything by losing Sam Howell or Sam Darnold?
You are talking about a guy who what was the 2nd overall pick, 3rd overall pick in his draft class, something like that.
He was, but the Jets ruined him.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mark Sanchez too, almost identical.
Yeah, right.
The Jets ruin everybody. If there's one franchise that's worse than Washington in the NFL,
at quarterback,
it's the Jets.
Yeah.
And no, I just mean period. Worst franchise. To me, the contenders are really there's only 4.
Yeah.
Washington, the Jets, the Lions, and the Jaguars.
Oh, I would
and the Bengals. Well, the Browns have gotten a little better, but throw them in there too. So 6. So of those 6, I don't know.
The Bengals get lucky though; they find good quarterbacks from time to time.
Yeah, they do. And so the teams that are really just like constantly moribund franchises are really the Jets and
5.
Washington.
Yeah. So Tyron Smith of the Cowboys fractured his knee, which sounds incredibly painful. fracture in your kneecap.
Apparently, it's a very, very serious injury.
Yeah,
Isn't that the same one that
come back this year?
Is that the same one Victor Cruz had for the Giants when he got hurt?
Is it? I don't remember.
I don't remember that. You might be right. I'll take your word for it. I think that's a big loss for Dallas.
Oh, it is because even Victor Cruz coming back, he never returned back to being the same again.
No,
when he came back.
Yeah, I mean, and Dallas relies on an offensive line. The way they play. Tyron Smith is, isn't he an All-Pro? I mean, he's clearly,
he's a top left tackle in the league. He's probably not the best, but he's up there.
He's one of them. So he is 2-time first-team All-Pro, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that 8? Yeah, 8-time Pro Bowler. And so I don't know who's the backup on Dallas's depth chart, but that is a massive, massive loss in my view. If you're a Washington fan, you don't want to root for anybody to get hurt, of course, but them not having Tyron Smith bodes well for Washington.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of any, I think, NFC East fan there's like a little voice in your head that said, "Yay, Dallas got something bad."
Somebody told me the other day when I was talking about my fandom is kind of changing all that, and I said, "Well, I'm going to try to watch some Saints games this year, and I'm not really a fan. We'll just see, And this person said, "Well, they're not the nearest NFC team." And then it occurred to me, because it didn't dawn on me, that he's talking about Dallas. And I said, "Look, I can't root for Dallas. I'm sorry, I can't just flip-flop. It's like me becoming a Chinese citizen."
Right.
After serving in the U.S. military. So anyway.
Yeah, if you ever flip to a Dallas fan, I probably wouldn't be back on the show anyway.
Yeah. No, the show would be over. The show would be over very quickly.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Of course, the final injury we have to talk about, the biggest one of the night, the Ravens mascot seemed to had some kind of leg injury. They haven't said it. People are kind of saying it might have been an ACL though. Because at halftime, they're doing this thing and it's cute, a Pee Wee Football League plays them a bunch of mascots from the area. So like the Ravens mascot was there, the Orioles mascot, a couple of the colleges. Which, by the way, I always forget that Johns Hopkins even has sports. They
do? I didn't know they did have sports.
Yeah. They don't have a football team. But the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays is their mascot. Yeah.
I didn't know anything in sports.
I think they have like a third-rate basketball team.
Now, was this event broadcast on the halftime show?
No, it wasn't broadcast, but it was the halftime show. Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't see it, and I was doing other things during halftime on Saturday, so I saw this after.
They were just showing clips of it. And he apparently went to tackle some kid and fell down and had to be carted off the
ACL.
field.
I mean, I hope the guy's okay, but I mean, that's funny. I'm sorry.
It's a little funny.
Yeah.
And of course,
and coming from a torn ACL myself, while it is funny, I actually wince in pain just thinking about it right now because of 2007.
We don't know 100% if it was a torn ACL. We just know it's a leg injury of some kind.
But it's just just the thought of it though.
Mm-hmm. Some dude making minimum wage as a mascot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he's probably not a professional athlete, and he's out there playing with little kids.
Right.
That typically doesn't go well. Anybody who's a little older knows once you get out there and start playing with people who are a lot younger than you, typically doesn't go well.
But the guys it's not like they're our age, Steve. The guys who do the mascot.
I don't know who the guy is. I don't know who he is.
I don't know, but I do know because I once got a job offer when I was a teenager to be a mascot. Like they're usually in their like late teens, early 20s.
What were you offered?
It was at the MCI Center at the time. Now the Cap One Arena where the Wizards and Capitals play. It was to be the WB Frog. Because the Warner Brothers had the TV rights to all the games.
How on earth did that come to Alex Zeese?
Family friend was involved in it, and they're like, "Hey, we need someone to be the mascot." And I was like, "How much?" And they're like, "Minimum wage." I already had a job making minimum wage doing video camera work. I was like, "No, I'm not. I don't want to." Also, I don't want to be a mascot.
I think the whole thing is hilarious. Again, I hope the guy's okay, obviously.
Yes.
But
I hope so too. You're not going to get many chicks with a, hey, I hurt myself, as a
How
pose.
did you hurt yourself?
Right.
Oh, I fell down. Was dressed as a giant stuffed bird and fell
Right.
down wrong.
Never more will it happen.
That's not going to get you the cool points for like the athletic tough guy injury,
No.
I know. It's all about wording. You sit there and tell them why. I did it in front of 50,000 plus fans at M&T Stadium.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go.
Bingo. That's
There
it.
you go.
I tore my ACL, baby, playing football, and 50,000 people.
Admit what you were wearing, and you're fine. All right. We are at just after the half-hour mark. I've said it, and we're going to stick to it. We got to do the season predictions now, guys.
You have to.
Because this always takes way too long. We'll do this standard the way we always do it. I'll just shout out the first game.
Well, before you do that, because we haven't talked about this ahead of time. Alex, are you keeping track, or do I need to keep track?
I'll keep track. I always keep track.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let me. I will make a table right now.
While Alex is vamping, so how this works is this is our official season predictions. So we're going to publish on the website, as we always do, our predictions, and a couple others involved in the site and stuff. If everyone wants to do it. We may or may not have a contest for the people in the comment section. Whoever else wants to do it.
I'm going to say no because they've been annoying. So
well, that and Alex and I kind of disagreed a couple years ago about how to measure it, and so we may not. But if anybody wants to email us predictions, or mail us predictions.
If you mail us predictions, I'll give you something if you mail us predictions.
Okay, tell you what, we have an official mailing address for the show. If someone wants to mail us something, email me first, and I will email you the mailing address. If you do that, you will get a prize from Alex.
For the first one only.
Yes.
I'm not giving away like 200
If you go
t-shirts.
through the effort of emailing us to ask for the mailing address and then actually mail it to us, we will get it because there is a business address.
Right.
You will get a prize from Alex, not from me.
Right. Yes. I'll buy you one of our Hogside t-shirts and send it to you.
There you go.
All right, let's do this thing. September 11th, game 1 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. 1:00 game. Good old-fashioned 1 p.m. games, my favorite. Steve, what is your prediction?
I think Washington is going to win this game. I think they're going to start off strong. I've not been overly impressed with Jacksonville. I'm not overly impressed with Trevor Lawrence. Was he a bit overhyped coming out of college? Maybe so. They were calling him the greatest prospect since Andrew Luck and all this stuff. But the franchise isn't very good. The team does have some talent at some positions. I think it's kind of like who's the least worst sort of thing here, but it's a home game for Washington. So I'm going to give them a slight advantage. I think this is one of these, like the Vegas line is going to be Washington minus 3.5 kind of thing.
Maybe even less.
I think Washington squeaks one out and starts strong.
All right, Dave, what about you?
Well, I think this all hinges on Trevor Lawrence and him taking a step forward, because right now they're looking at their top 2 running backs in Robinson and Etienne coming off a major injury right now still. Christian Kirk, I believe, is going to be out for the first couple of weeks of the season. That's their high-priced receiver that they had. They have no tight ends that I can even think of, so our linebackers are safe in this game. And defensively, I think they're still pretty vulnerable because they're not even a cohesive unit yet. I think they do get a W on this one myself.
All right, so that's 2 wins, and I am going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to actually predict this as a loss. And my reasoning is simple. Washington has started slow the last however many seasons. It goes back to Jay Gruden. It goes back before Jay Gruden, even into Shanahan's time quite a bit. And I haven't seen anything to change that with Rivera. I think he gets the same effort level, which is not very great, out of these guys as his predecessors.
I hear you, but for me, it's just it takes some effort to lose to Jacksonville. That's all.
Yeah. No
I was very
that.
tempted to pick an L for the reasons you suggest, but it's just tough to lose to Jacksonville.
And plus, I think Wentz has a little something to prove for this game too. So, because
I know Dave's a big Carson Wentz fan. You can't let.
I always have been. I always liked him in Philly. I still like him today. I don't put him in the top 10 of quarterbacks like some do. I do hover him around 12 to 15, but I think he's capable with the right talent around him.
Okay, we'll find out.
So that's
All right.
me.
And Dave's waving a pen for those who
It's-
none of you are watching.
When you know that he's serious when he's doing this at the pen.
Yeah. I think that might be a thing. We're gonna keep an eye on that, Steve. All right, let's go to the next game.
Okay.
Detroit Lions on the road, 1:00 again on the 18th of September. Dave, you're first.
This one I'm giving a loss to. And the reason why I say that is because DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, and DJ Chark. And I know for confidence level is pretty high that Goff's going to start off the year probably pretty well. And he loves his tight ends. That running game is going to keep everything open. I think we'll score against their defense, but I think it's a close game. I think we come down to a loss in that one.
Yeah, for me, I also have this one as a loss, and it's primarily Jared Goff, the better quarterback. They do have, I think, more talent than people realize, and this might be bias because I've watched NFL Hard Knocks, but it appears as though they've had a pretty good preseason. And again, it may just be because I've been watching NFL Hard Knocks, that throws me off. Because like in March Madness, it always throws me off if I watch these teams instead of paying attention to numbers and stuff. So that might be that. But they do have some talent. I think Dan Campbell's a good coach. He appears as though he's motivating these guys to play and get better. So I do think, and this is in Detroit, so I think it's going to be a loss.
All right, I'm going against the grain again from what you guys are doing. I'm going to say win. It's Detroit.
What's it like to be wrong all the time, Alex?
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. I mean, there was one year where I think I predicted like 16. It was like 14 of the 16 games correctly. It was very weird. It was a ridiculous. I had a really good. The team did terrible, but I predicted a lot of them correctly. All right.
Well, you must have played a lot of points and so forth in that one.
No, I don't gamble. That's my thing.
Well, I'm talking about just in terms of you're thinking of the games.
You're giving us too much credit, Dave.
Yeah.
We just know this thing.
No,
okay?
we're not that smart. All right, let's move on. Philadelphia Eagles here in Washington, Sunday, September 25th, 1:00. Second home game. I'll go first this time. I'm going to say this is a loss. I think the Eagles have a really good team. I know there's still issues with the quarterback, or questions about if this quarterback they have is going to ever make the next step, but the rest of that offense is pretty darn good. So, I'm going to say this is a loss for Washington.
So for me, I did for this game what I usually don't do. I went through the entire season and I predicted obviously all these games. I have it written out ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, you've predicted too few wins. I don't think this team is going to be that bad. So I went through and I changed a couple of predictions. This is one I changed to try to get another win. And so I'm not confident in it. But Washington sometimes splits with the Eagles. And they have in the past lost at home and won on the road. This time I don't think they're going to do that. I put win at home. It's early in the season. Life hasn't happened to Washington yet. They still maybe have some optimism. So if they have to split with the Eagles, I kind of thought they'd take the early game and not the late game when the Eagles are rolling because Alex said they're a much better team. And so if they're going to win one, it's going to be this one. So I kind of picked this as kind of a steal a bit just because I thought Washington needed another win, which is a horrible way to go. And I never do that, but I did that in this case.
Well, this is the first of the first of the sweeps that they get in this division by our NFC opponents, and this one will be by the inevitable NFC East winners, by the Eagles. They just have too much. They had too much in terms of with Goddard. The receivers are phenomenal. They got a great group of receivers out there. We're not going to be able to handle that. And Hurts has actually had a pretty good offseason. Everything that they talk about with him, he still has some consistency issues, especially going downfield. But the one thing he has been doing, he's been doing pretty well in terms of getting rid of the ball. going through his progressions fairly decently and so forth. That's some things that, and being a Philly area, they talk about that. They've been relatively pleasantly surprised about his production or progression, and their defense is going to be too strong. Too strong. I think they lose both games this year to Philadelphia, and I think this game is not even close.
All right.
Let's
move
on.
I
agree with you more than I agree with myself, but since I'm stuck with it, I'd keep the W. But I don't know.
All right. Let's move on. By the way, it's taken us 10 minutes to do 3 games. We got to speed it up a little.
My apologies. The taskmaster over here.
October 2nd at the Cowboys, 1:00.
Loss.
Dave, you go first.
I already went.
Loss. Actually, no. I actually give this one a win because of the injury we spoke to earlier. Diggs is not the corner that the national media thinks he is, and so forth. And I just think I think they squeak this one out. I think they win this one. They're will split.
They're not going to walk into Dallas and win a game. There's no way.
Rationally, I know Steve is right, but I'm still saying win because I can never really stomach just giving us.
This is great because not being a fan anymore, I'm free to just pick these things, and
right. I'm still going blind homerism. Damn it. All right, October 9th, Tennessee Titans are in town. 1:00 game still. Like, we haven't had any primetime games yet, but one's coming up. This is a game I might try and go to, mostly because that's my birthday, and I haven't been to a game in a while. But now with their new schedule, I can get into the stadium, So I might go to this one. Anyway, Steve, go ahead.
Titans, loss.
Loss?
Yeah. I think that they were a playoff caliber team last year, 9-8 winning record. I'm not a Malik Willis fan at all. I think he was overdrafted, but the Titans, I don't know. It's one of those things. I think they're a better team.
All right. By the way, have they decided is Willis going to be the starter?
I don't know that.
Yeah, it's still Tannehill.
Oh, it's still Tannehill? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Dave?
I look at this one as a loss. I think Henry beat too much. Wentz was 0-2 against him last year. He struggled against that defense mightily last year. So, I just think that's a loss as well.
All right. If Tannehill's still starting, I'm saying it's a loss too. If it was Willis, I think they'd have a shot because I think Willis is going to probably be a bust still. So that's just where I would be with this. This is going to be a loss if it's still Tannehill. All right, October 13th, Chicago Bears, 8:15 p.m., not a.m., on the road in Chicago, October 13th. Dave, where are you at?
I actually think this is going to be a walk-away easy win on this one. Fields just doesn't look like he's progressing where he should be at this moment. At this point of the season, that could be different, but who knows? I just think this is like probably their easiest win of the season right here, I think.
For me, I've got a Bears loss in here, meaning a Washington win. I think Dave's right. Justin Fields doesn't impress me. I don't think the team's very good. The danger zone for this is that this is a primetime, nationally televised Thursday primetime game, and we all know how horrible Washington's historically been on these primetime games, and so that's the risk. But yeah, I think, and the other thing is it's in Chicago. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that, but I think Washington wins this game.
Yeah. I think this is a win. We were listing like the messed up teams there, Steve, and I think we always forget Chicago's been bad and poorly run for a while too. So
yeah, they're certainly they're certainly toward the bottom.
Yeah. So all right, do we even need to do Green Bay?
Well, did you give your prediction? Did you say?
I'm going to say win too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry. Yeah.
Let's just say it all together. Green Bay,
1, 2, 3.
Loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're all in agreement there.
Yeah.
That's a quick one. Carson Wentz's revenge game on the 30th of October at Indianapolis, 4:25 p.m. game. This one could be a fun one, just with Wentz going back and taking on Irsay's team. And, Jim Irsay cannot stop bashing Carson Wentz still in the media. I think he did it again last week. So, Steve, where are you at on the Colts game?
I went back and forth with this game, but it ended up predicted loss because it was on the road. And I think Indianapolis is just a slightly better team. And yeah, I don't know if Carson Wentz is the type of guy who's big into revenge. He seems like too much of a nice guy and too much of a class act to ever kind of get that mentality. So
Right.
I don't know if we're going to see that from him. And so I just think Indianapolis is a slightly better team and toss in road game, and there you go, loss.
All right, Dave.
I differ with you a little bit on that, Steve. I think actually Carson might enter this game because of Irsay. And I mean, because he has been on attack with him since prior to week 1 last year, all the way through the season. Opened the gates since that Jacksonville game has been nonstop. I think this offense gets some chemistry this week and they start looking more of a cohesive unit. And I think they win by roughly about a field goal or so.
Okay. All right. And I'm with Dave. I'm actually thinking this might be a win. I don't think that Matt Ryan was the upgraded quarterback that they thought he would be.
Oh, I agree.
Matt Ryan's looked washed up for the last, 2-3 seasons. So, like, I that was their call. They decided they wanted to go with that.
And you are 100% right on that. He's looked terrible in the preseason too.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he has not looked good.
All right. No, I'm not shocked. Dude's old. His arm's done.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, by the way, we're at the halfway point, or kind of 17 games, whatever. Steve, you're at 3-5, and Dave and I are both at 4-4. So that's where we're predicting us right now. Next game, November 6th. Kirk Cousins comes back with the Vikings for a 1:00 game. Dave, I'm gonna go to you first.
I think this is going to be a loss. There's way too much offensively. Kirk has some motivation himself, and it's just he's going to eat up that intermediate part of our defense all day long. So I think that's a loss.
So for me, this is the other game where I said I need to find another win on the schedule. And so I stupidly picked the Vikings. And because I made the prediction, I'm going to stick with it. Washington seems to have a game or two a year they win that they shouldn't win.
Right.
And I think this is going to be this game. Kirk Cousins has a tendency, as we all know, of putting up a bunch of stats, but not winning games, at that clip. And yes, Dave's right. They have a ton of offense, all of that for sure. And on paper, it would seem Vikings victory, but this is just a game. Excuse me. I always pick a game. What is Washington going to win that they shouldn't? This year, for me, it's the Vikings.
I think, this one's kind of like the Colts game. It's a bit more of a toss-up in my head. Like, I could easily see it going either way. Because of that, because I feel like I'm going to hand I don't know about a row of losses. Actually, the second half of the schedule is pretty nice for them. You know what? I'm going to say it's a loss. I'm just going to go with my first instinct, and that is that, they got a good running game. They have a lot of weapons for Kirk to throw to. And, the only question mark will be is, how that defense holds up in Minnesota now. But, yeah. All right. I'm going to say loss. All right. Let's say Philly game part 2, Monday, November 14th, 8:15 p.m. We're at the Eagles. Up in Lincoln Financial Field. It's still Lincoln Financial Field?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if they'd changed it by now because, the stadium names change all the time. All right. So up
and
at
the
the
Nick
link.
Foles, and the Nick Foles statue's still there.
Is it?
There's this Nick Foles statue.
Well, the Rocky statue got moved to the art museum, right? That's no longer down there.
I would just like to point out that the Rocky statue was a movie prop, not actual art, but continue.
Don't tell that to the Philly natives. They don't take kindly to bad mouthing Sly.
You have no idea.
I lived up there for 4 years. I have an idea.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you probably do.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, what are you thinking?
There's ain't no way Washington's beating the Eagles twice. This is a definite
especially on a Monday night.
Monday night game. Philly's going to be rolling, hunting for playoff spots. There's no way they're losing a division game in that circumstance.
Dave?
I already said earlier they're going to get swept by Philly anyway. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did. All right. Now I'm going to say it's a loss too. Again, Philly's. I personally think Philly's going to win the NFC East this year. So that's.
And I will add, this Philly team is different than when they brought in Asamoah and so forth, and when Vince Young called it the dream team and so forth. They look good on paper. I think
Right.
It's not that scenario with Philly. I think they are legitimately going to be that good this year.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. All right. Let's just move on. Texans, Sunday, November 20th at Houston. 1:00 game there. Steve, how are the Texans looking? I don't even know.
I think the Texans are a train wreck.
Okay.
So, granted, it's an away game, but I think the Texans will have checked out, and Washington will be kind of on the way to checking out too. Davis Mills is a good quarterback, but he's got a ways to go, and the team again is a train wreck. So, I actually think Washington. This is a game I needed to have to get a reasonable amount of wins out of this schedule, and so I think they take a W here.
All right.
I would point out that somebody offered me tickets to this game, and I turned them down in favor of Texans Chiefs.
Oh wow. Well, you know what? I don't blame you, man.
Because the person said, I know you're a Washington fan. Do you want these tickets? And I was like, I'm not really a fan anymore. And then I thought, wait a minute, why don't I just ask for another game? What's the best game I can go to? Chiefs. So I'm excited.
Man.
Good tickets or like cheap tickets?
Pretty good. Lower bowl. Yeah.
Nice.
For free. Amen to that random person. I don't want to say who it is.
No, that's fine. I get it. All right, Dave, what do you got?
Well, the only player I like out of Texans is Nico Collins, their number 2 receiver, and that's not going to be enough to win the game for them. So I definitely have that as a win for them.
Yeah, I think that makes it a sweep. We all are going to say win there. The next week after that, the Atlanta Falcons come to Washington, D.C. on November 27th. So this will be your Thanksgiving weekend game. Everyone will be stuffed with turkey. It's not a Thanksgiving game, thank goodness. God. Yeah.
Although with our new schedule, it would have been a little bit better this year.
Thanksgiving games are the worst.
Oh, yeah.
When you want to do podcasts. The worst. We hate them. I hate Thanksgiving games in general because I like spending time with my family.
But the number of times that Alex and Steve have had to do shows on Thanksgiving Day, it's just unfair.
Yeah, at 10:30 at night because that's when we could do it, and you just want to sleep because you've eaten all the turkey and stuffing. Yeah.
Well, my most memorable recent Thanksgiving Day game was the RG3 one because I was up in the Poconos watching it up there.
I was live in the stadium.
Blasted the Cowboys that day.
I was live in the stadium for that game.
Were you really? That's awesome. That was a great game.
It was a good game.
Yeah,
it was.
I almost got in a fist fight with the guy in front of me. Well, because he was first of all, he was an older guy in his mid-50s. He's wearing a Des Bryant jersey, which I thought is a bit. I think people that age wearing any jersey is a bit silly, personally. But this guy was obnoxiously a Des Bryant fan. If I couldn't take it anymore, I finally told him to be quiet. He didn't like that. My dad's looking at me like, why are you talking? You know? Yeah. And so
you're lucky that was long enough ago where all the people videotaping stadium fights wasn't a thing yet.
Well, and because we kind of bowed up for a minute and then he backed down, thankfully, because I didn't want to actually get in a fist fight.
Well, and
I was kind of bluffing. So
you're 20 years younger than the guy at that point. So,
yes, I was.
Yeah. You don't want.
I'm still 20 years younger than the guy, just for the record.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
not at that point. I am 20 years younger.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He aged too, but I'm just saying, it's never a good look to fight somebody 20 years older than you, unless you're
No, but he was bigger than me though.
Oh, okay.
It would have
been
fat big
or muscle big.
Just big. He wasn't fat big. He was just a bigger dude.
Gotcha. All right. Well, anyway, let's we digress. Atlanta, what do you got?
Atlanta. It's a home game. I'm not a believer in the Atlanta quarterback room. They've let some talent get out of there in the past few years.
They're rebuilding.
Yeah. Cordell Patterson obviously is a talent. Kyle Pitts is a talent. But Atlanta's kind of a mess. So I think just like Washington is, I think this is not going to be a game for the ages, put it like that. But I think Washington squeaks out with a victory here as well.
Dave?
Well, At first, I was thinking this was going to be a game that they were should win, but they were going to probably find a way to lose. But I can't come to grips with that either. So I figure I'll give them a hard win on this one. Hard nosed win.
I mean, I think it's a win too. I really liked Desmond Ridder coming out, who Atlanta took, and I think he was the most prototypical quarterback coming out in that draft. So I really liked him a lot. But yeah, he's going to need time to develop if he ever becomes anything. So yeah. All right. Let's move on. This is an interesting one. I'm just going to ask you guys to do a double because we're at New York, a bye week, then New York comes to DC. So a back-to-back New York contest for Washington with the bye week in the middle, which very weird to see that on the schedule, in my opinion. So I want to get both your guys, both the away and then the home, back to back.
Okay.
All right.
Me first, I guess.
Sure.
I'm gonna say they split these games. I don't think either team is good enough to win 2 games in a row against the same team. So, the Giants stink. Washington isn't much better. So I think they split. I'm going to give, because I've seen it seems like Washington is good about winning these division games on the road. It just may be me making this up, but in my head I have this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they win at New York and then lose the home game.
All right.
I'll go. The teams win at home.
You want
the 1-1.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm with Dave. I think New York's kind of a mess. I'm assuming by this point Daniel Jones will be benched for Tyrod Taylor, which actually would probably help New York in that case. Taylor's I'm sorry, not Tyler Taylor. Who they got the backup from the Bills, right?
I don't know.
The guy who used to be the Chicago quarterback.
No, right? I thought Trubisky's in Pittsburgh now.
Oh, is he in Pittsburgh? Where? All right.
Okay, so Tyrod Taylor is the backup.
Oh, okay.
And Davis Webb is the third stringer.
Okay. I psyched myself out because I thought Trubisky was going to follow his his offensive coordinator from Buffalo to New York, but he didn't.
They could put Johnny Unitas on that team. It's not going to help.
Yeah, that team's a mess. So anyway, that's where we're at. By the way, Dave and I have now predicted both 4-game win streaks for Washington at this point in the season, which means we both have the team at 8-6 at this point, and Steve, you are 1 game back from us, basically still. So that's where we're at. All right, next game, December 24th. San Francisco 49ers on the road, 4:00 game. So Christmas Eve game.
Dave,
I'll let you go first this time. Yeah.
The only aspect of this team that's kind of weak would be the quarterback position. And I think everything else covers them up. There's the defense, the skill position players around them, and so forth. I think this is easily San Francisco in this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I definitely think this is an easy, effortless San Francisco victory. Like Dave said, I'm not a Trey Lance fan. I think he's going to be a bust. But they have way more talent than Washington does. They're a much better team. They're a Super Bowl contender, depending on how Lance does. So yeah, easy Washington or 49ers victory.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. The one thing Kyle Shanahan is known for is that exotic run scheme he has, where basically anybody could be carrying the ball at any time if he really wants to. So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Like that offense goes through the play calling and the trick plays and all that. So it's a loss. Yeah. All right. Week 17, Cleveland Browns come to Washington, 1:00 game. January 1st, New Year's Day.
January 2nd, but go ahead.
When I pulled it, it said the 1st. Is it the 2nd?
I've got the 2nd.
I'm showing the 1st.
All right, that's a Saturday. I've shown the 2nd, but okay.
Okay, well, that weekend.
Regardless.
Weekend.
That weekend, yeah.
Yes. Deshaun Watson will be back with the Browns at that point. How do you guys have this one going?
Dave?
Well, I think Watson will be his third or fourth game in. That defense is really strong, really good. They got a great running game. Where they have Amari Cooper there now, and Njoku in a tight end group. Yeah, and Njoku in a tight end group is pretty solid. I don't see them winning this game. Yeah, it's a loss for them.
Yeah, by the way, I had the wrong date on here. It clearly is Sunday, January 1st. This is just a typo. Yeah, I mean, as much of a total sleazeball as Deshaun Watson is, he's going to be back. He's a much better quarterback than any of the losers they have on the roster. So I think by that time he will be kind of back and playing again, absent injury, of course. So I think this is a Cleveland victory.
All right. Gosh, I really want to pick against Deshaun Watson. Just my contempt for him.
Don't go with your heart. Go with your head.
Yeah, if I go with my head, it's a loss. There's no question about that. So, yep, that's kind of where I'm at. By the way, this puts Steve at 7-9 right now. Dave and I are both at 8-8. And finally, the Dallas Cowboys, the final game of the season. Was that January 8th? They're going to retire Sonny's number at this game, they've said, which is an interesting thing. We could get into that, but yeah. All right. So final game, Steve, where are you at?
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah,
this is an easy blowout loss.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't have Sonny's jersey retired in like a game that they could maybe actually win.
Well, there was a whole discussion I saw or heard. I can't remember if it was on the radio or if I saw it somewhere else, but
the Falcons game or something.
The logical one they were pointing out would be the Eagles. The one other team Sonny played for, retire at that second home game where the Eagles are here.
Yeah. Regardless.
Yeah.
All
right, Dave. Do I even need to ask?
There's no way we're sweeping Dallas, so it's going to wind up being a loss there. Whether it is actually we win this one, lose early, or whichever, we're going to split with them anyway, I think.
Oh, by the way, Washington is 5-10 in Dallas in the last 15 years.
So they're going to break that streak. They're going to.
Well, this is at home.
Add a win on this one.
I know. I just wanted to say that though, but no, they aren't. Okay. But go ahead.
All right. And because like I said before, I just can't do it. Dallas will beat them. I'm just gonna put it down as a win, even though my heart tells me, or my head tells me no. My heart tells me you got to put in beating Dallas.
And my eyes rolling in the back of my head, showing on camera.
Yes, okay. It is. So final numbers. I have the team going 9-8. Dave has them at 8-9. Steve has them at a very consistent 7 wins again for the year.
Isn't that kind of where this team always ends up?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Basically been where they've ended up ever since Jay Gruden got here, except for that one year when they sabotaged the whole team.
Aside from a couple years here and there, it's been where they are since Joe Gibbs retired the first time.
Oh no,
they've had a couple bad years
for most of Shanahan.
But this is kind of where the norm. They regress to this mean usually.
Right.
There's a couple peaks, some big valley. We're 3-13 one year, if I recall.
Okay, so Shanahan, I believe, if I'm going to do it off my top of my head, I think they went 3 wins, then 6 wins, then 10 wins, then back to 3 wins. It might have been 4 in their first year, but it was something like that.
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head exactly.
Yeah. So
what's funny is that I went to this whole prediction ordeal thinking we weren't going to win anything more than 6 games.
Right.
Going through all this, here I'm sitting at 8, so it's just.
See, I had Washington at 5-12, and I thought, man, I don't know if this team's going to be that bad. So that's why I had to give them 2 victories somewhere.
Well, so they do have what I would call a soft part of the schedule towards the end there when it's Houston, Atlanta, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like that'll. that if they come out of that anything less than 3-1, realistically, it like that's a problem.
Well, that's what I had them at, and of course,
Yeah.
I think the whole last quarter of the season are losses. Giants, 49ers, Browns, Dallas.
Yeah, I had them 1-3 in that group.
Yeah. I probably should, but I have them 2-2. All right.
Now it also depends with that final game against Dallas. They're not real deep at a lot of positions like they have been in recent years, and it's like, they could very well going into this game only have like 6 wins themselves. I don't think that's possible.
Man.
I don't think that's possible. I'm just saying that they're just a couple of injuries away from really not having a very good year.
I think they're fighting for a playoff spot.
I think they will. I think they're going to fight for that division with Philly and so forth. I truly believe that, but I just don't think they're that deep this year either.
We know from, watching football all these years, there's no way to know what's going to be happening by the end of the season. Dallas, that final game, for all we know, Dallas could rest all their starters. For all we know, Mike McCarthy could be fired. For all we know, Ron Rivera could be fired. We don't know what those teams are actually going to look like on the field or in the coaching staff or any of this. Like, these could be totally different teams on paper than what we see now.
Do you guys think Dan Snyder is going to own this team 10 years from now?
Yes.
I think if the last 2 years hadn't knocked him out, nothing's going to knock him out.
That's kind of what I think too.
Well,
if he survives this, he's not going anywhere. He's
I will put one caveat in there. The man does look like he'll probably have a heart attack in the next few years.
I'm not talking about health stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's gotten this far, like you said, and right now there's no amount of money that's ever going to buy him out because he's going to feel like he won. When he shouldn't have won, he won. And I'm not talking about games on the field. I'm just talking about in terms of what he escaped with the toxic work culture, with Congress now and all that stuff. And I know how you feel about what Congress now they're doing it too, Steve. I agree with all that. But unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Fortunately, the good guys are going to take Congress here in a little bit. If all was right in the world, and that'll end that. But that's another show.
I don't know. When you talk about all that, is there really a true definition of good guys?
They're all evil. 100% of them. Yes.
There's no good or evil. It's just power. It's power. Who wants power?
If you all see my shirt, which I will not say on the air.
Well, let's see. I'm wearing a Arena Football League shirt. Dave's wearing a Penn State shirt. Did you go to Penn State, Dave?
I did not know.
Oh, okay.
I've just been a Penn State fan, that's all.
So you're in favor of little boys being raped in a shower?
That'd be a negative. And that was definitely a very hard pill to swallow going through all that, especially for as easily as Paterno could have stopped that. He was God up there. He could have easily have stopped that.
Oh yeah.
As soon as he found out.
Yeah. So see, it's one of those things where me as a Temple fan was just like, ha,
I was just
now that that's a rivalry, it's not a rivalry at all. No. Temple's won 1 game or 2 games against Penn State in 120 years.
Is that it? My goodness.
Yeah. Temple won when we had Pop Warner coaching 1 year, and then they won it like 6 years ago or something when Matt Rule was coaching. Yeah. It was a long gap.
I didn't mean to open that door.
No.
That's all right.
All right, guys. That's a weird note to end this whole show on. So,
yeah, pretty much.
Oh man.
Cheers, everybody.
All right, guys. We'll see you all next week.